Dear students, today's topic is introduction of economics. So let's start first with what is economics. So some basic definitions have been given. According to this definition, let's have what is the meaning of economics. Economics is a social science concerned with those aspects of social behavior and those institutions which involve the allocation of scarce resources among unlimited and competing uses to produce and distribute goods and services for the satisfaction of human wants, which are innumerable and insatiable. Because economics is a branch of social science, why we are calling it as social science? Because whatever is going to be discussed under the economics is associated with the society, or you can say the individual persons of the society, and a scientific element is there because we need to focus on some kind of experimentation over here, and we have to, for example, we have to focus on the behavior of the consumer in the market. So that's why the branch known as the social science. It is concerned with the aspects of social behavior, means the behavior of the society, and those institutions mean that those organizations, institutions, markets, industries, enterprises, etc., which involve the allocation of scarce resources. Our resources are always scarce in comparison to our wants. Our wants are unlimited, and we need to satisfy all those wants, but practically it is not possible. So what we have to do, we have to make a choice between the resources. We need to allocate them accordingly, according to the use, to produce, to distribute goods and services for the satisfaction of human wants, which are innumerable and insatiable. So there were so many economists. First of all, the particular person was Adam Smith, the well-renowned economist. He is known as the father of economics. He was a Scottish economist and philosopher and author. He wrote a book titled as An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of Wealth of Nations in 1776. He first of all defined economics. He first of all focused on the importance of economics with the quotation that economics is the study of nature, causes and growth of national wealth. According to him, economics is the study of the nature of wealth, causes of wealth. Causes means why the wealth is introduced or it is created, and growth of national wealth. Now the book, he wrote this book in 1776. He is known as father of economics. After Adam Smith, there was one more economist. He was also a businessman, Jean Baptiste Say, J.B. Say. He gave Say's law. According to him, the aim of political economy is to show the way in which wealth is produced, distributed and consumed. So J.B. Say, particularly in his definition, elaborated the functions of wealth, means the wealth can be produced, it can be distributed among the masses, and finally it is being consumed, means it can be utilized by the masses. This was the elementary idea that was given by J.B. Say. Then Mr. Francis Emerson Walker was there. He was an American economist, statistician, journalist and educator also. He gave wage fund doctrine. According to him, economics is political economy, that is a part of knowledge which relates to wealth. So after classical economies, there were the time period was changed, and some economists came forward for give their further viewpoint about the economy. So that time period was known as neoclassical economists. There was a prominent economist, Mr. Albert Marshall. Marshall was very popular in the area of economics, and even with the curriculum you will find out so many theories and concepts given by Marshall. So Marshall gave a very you can say huge contribution in economics. He wrote a book called as Principles of Economics that was published in 1890. According to Marshall, economics is the study of man's actions in the ordinary business of life. It inquires how he gets his income and how he uses it. Thus, it is on one side a study of wealth, or on other part of study of men. So one point to be noted here is that according to Adam Smith, he was focusing only on the wealth part, but he didn't give any importance to the human being. But simultaneously, what Marshall did, Marshall gave equal weightage to the study of man, means according to Marshall, if there is no human being, then wealth can't do anything. So he introduced one important element in his definition as men. Edwin Kennan, one more economist was there. He was British economist, historian of economic thought, professor at London School of Economics. He defined economics as the aim of political economy is the explanation of general causes on which the material welfare of human being depends. So one more terminology is there, that is material welfare, that is related with the human beings. So Marshall introduced the importance of human beings, and Edwin Cannon introduced one more element, that is the material welfare human beings. He focused on in his definition. Then E.C. Pigou was there. He wrote a book, Economics of Welfare, in 1920. So first of all, Mr. A.C. Pigou is known as the father of welfare economics. According to him, the range of our inquiry becomes restricted to that part of social welfare that can be brought directly or indirectly into relation with the measuring rod of money. So he also gave equal weightage to money in terms of measuring rod. Then time passed and the modern time period came. One more economist was the Lionel Robbins. He gave the scarcity definition. This is actually the modern definition and also applicable in modern times in current scenario. According to him, economics is the science which studies human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. So he actually focused on there is wealth, there is the you can say requirement of the human beings, because we need to focus on the behavior, we have to study the behavior of human beings, and simultaneously he focused on the scarcity concept of resources. According to Lionel Robbins, human beings have some specific wants, and to achieve all of those wants they need to utilize some resources, and in comparison to their wants, resources are scarce. So that's why this definition is known as the scarcity definition that was given by Lionel Robbins. According to him, economics studies the problems which have arisen because of the scarcity of resources, because wants are unlimited and in comparison to resources are limited. Multiplicity of ants alone, ants word has been used here for wants. Multiplicity of ants alone or the scarcity of means, means are used for resources. Scarcity of means alone neither can create an economic problem. According to him, only wants or only scarcity of resources cannot create any economic problem, nor merely the alternative applicability of scarce mean. Then one more modified version was given of the scarcity definition by P. A. Samuelson. He was an American economist. He was the first American to win the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences, and he wrote a book titled as Foundations of Economic Analysis. And one more book is written by him is Economics and Introductory Analysis, that was published in 1948. According to Paul Samuelson, economics is the study of how man and society choose. Problem of choice is there. With or without the use of money, money can be there, cannot be there. To employ scarce productive resources, we need to utilize the resources which could have alternative uses, which can be used for multiple uses, to produce various commodities over time for the production purpose, and distribute them for consumption, for distribution purpose, and finally for consuming the goods, now and in future, in current scenario as well as in future, among various people and groups of society. It analyzes the costs and benefits of improving patterns of resource allocation. Need to know economics. What is the requirement to know economics all about? Because there is the requirement of making decisions under conditions of risk and uncertainty. That's why we need to focus on economics. To make future predictions, it is required. To make analysis through the application of tools and various techniques. What kind of tools and techniques are applicable in economics? When we will go further, then you will come to know. What is the contribution of economic theory? It helps in building analytical models. Models means, for example, equational models, algebraical equations. As in mathematics, there are different types of models like single equation model, multiple equation model. Similarly, there is also a model approach in the case of economics. Application of analytical methods to enhance analytical capability of business analysts. What business analysts do? They apply economic tools and techniques for the purpose of analysis and find out fruitful decisions. It is helpful for making clarity of various concepts used in business analysis. So various concepts are here in under the whole area of economics. So one by one we will go through all those concepts. What are the major problems in economics for decision making? There are basically three major problems. What to produce means what kind of product we have to produce if we are talking about manufacturing. How to produce, how can we produce that particular commodity or product, for whom to produce, and what particular section of the society will be targeted for the purpose of production. For example, if you are going to produce a marker, then we need to decide for the particular section of the society which particular section you will target, which particular section will be benefited from a product, and finally how you will produce it. How means the technique of production, which production process you will use, capital intensive production process you will use, labor intensive you will use, right? So these are different production processes you will come to know in later stage. Next is problem of scarcity. When we talk about problem of scarcity, means the shortage of resources, then these problems can be listed out. Number one, problem of allocation of resources, because resources are scarce and so many wants are there, so we have to make a choice about how can we allocate our resources in favor of the most urgent wants first. Number two, problem of the choice of a production method. Similarly, various production methods, various production techniques are available. We have to select the best one. So we have to face some kind of problem while choice making. Problem of distribution of national product. Whatever being to be produced nationally, we need to focus on how can we distribute that particular product among the different sections of the whole nation. Problem of economic efficiency. How can we achieve economic efficiency? So I will make this concept more clear in later stage. Problem of full employment of resources. Full employment means this is the concept when all the factors of production have employment. Nobody is lying out of job. So this is known as problem of full employment. Problem of economic growth. So economic growth, how can we achieve economic growth? Economic growth means how can we find out an increasing trend in national income, or you can say per capita income of an economy. That is called economic growth up to a long period of time. Next is the nature of economics. What is the nature of economics? Economics is micro in nature because we can do individual study with the help of it about individual person, maybe individual wholesaler, retailer, individual market, individual firm, individual industry, and so on. So whatever we talk about under microeconomics, that is on the basis of individual unit. That's why there's a study known as microeconomics. Macroeconomics, in case of macroeconomics, we focus on the study of the whole nation. We take the aggregate of micro units, like if I am talking about national demand. National demand means all the consumers of an economy are taken together. That's why we can calculate the national demand. Similarly, national output, national expenses, national savings, the same concept can be applicable here. Positive and normative economics. Positive economics is actually related with the theoretical part, or you can say it is related with the principles, laws, theories, concepts of economics. Positive economics have some interrogative words like for example, what is economics, how can we apply economics, what will be the benefit after applying the economics in business. So such kind of questions can be answered with the help of normative economics. So positive economics provides a theoretical background. When we apply this theory into practice and we find out the feedback in terms of what is good and what is bad for the society, means value judgment kind of concept can be applicable here, that is known as normative economics. So normative economics gives an understanding of what can be do and what should be done for the society or for the particular situation to make it better than before. Partial and general equilibrium analysis, when we talk about a particular equilibrium situation and we analyze this equilibrium situation at micro level, means in case of an individual unit, then it becomes partial equilibrium analysis. Similarly, general equilibrium analysis, if we are going to analyze a particular equilibrium situation keeping all the factors variable, then it is known as general equilibrium analysis. This is related with macroeconomics. In case of micro, in case of partial equilibrium analysis, some factors are assumed to be constant definitely. Static, dynamic and comparative static. Static situation is an individual market equilibrium situation, for example. Dynamic, keeping some factors constant. Dynamic means, for example, market equilibrium situation we are going to analyze, but the factors are keeping variable. Comparative static, we have to make a comparison between two or more static equilibrium situations. Economics is science as well as art. It is art in the sense that we have to use our innovative ideas. We have to focus on how can we get the optimum output with the help of best utilization of our resources. That is called an art. And science is how can we make some experimentation to find out the behavior of economic units. Economic units means distributor, wholesaler, retailer, consumer, household, right? These are the economic units. So with the help of experimentation we can identify the behavior of economic unit. That's why economics has some scientific element. Methods of economic analysis. Number 1, this is known as deductive method or prior method or analytical method or hypothetical method or abstract method. Any name you can give this to this method. So different names have been given to this method. Proceed from general to particular. When we apply deductive method, deduction means to cut something. So we proceed from general approach to particular, means suppose you are talking about national income, right? So you will start your study from national income and you will go towards from general approach to particular approach, and you will come to the, you can say, the national income of an individual, right? So you will come from aggregate to the individual study. The classical and neoclassical school of economists, notably Ricardo, these economists were associated with classical neoclassical school of economics. So Ricardo, Senior, Kearney, J.S. Mill, Malthus, Marshall, Pico, they applied the deductive method in economic investigations. Means they investigated different situations. They started the analysis from macro perspective, and then they find out the solution for microeconomic problems for the individual units. For example, the law that utility derived by an individual from a commodity goes on diminishing with every successive addition is a self-evident truth from which we may draw many logical conclusions. With larger the stock of money, the lower shall be the utility of money. As you know that when the richer people have the more and more money, but the utility for money for them, because they are extravagant, they use money very frequently. They do not give importance to money, less weightage they give. In comparison to richer people of the society, poorer people give more and more weightage to money because they are more money sensitive, because they have shortage of money. Even they cannot meet out their basic requirements. So rich persons have lesser marginal utility of money than the poor people. So taxes should not be levied on proportional basis, etc. So this is the example that it has been mentioned here that the taxes should not be levied on proportional basis, because the richer section is richer and poorer section is poorer. So for the richer section, tax rate must be higher, and for poorer section, tax rate must be lower. Thus, the principle of progressive taxation is derived from the law of diminishing utility through deductive reasoning. Steps of deductive method. Perception of the problem to be inquired into. We have to focus on the perception for making inquiry. In the process of deriving economic generalizations, a clear and precise idea of the problem. So first of all, we need to focus on the clear and precise idea of the problem. Then defining of terms. Define clearly technical terms used in analysis and make precise assumptions for a theory. Number three, deducing hypothesis from the assumptions. So whatever assumptions you make, from these assumptions you have to derive some hypothesis, and finally you have to test the hypothesis through direct observations of events in the real world and through statistical methods. What are the merits of deductive method? This method is near to reality. It is less time consuming and less expensive. The use of mathematical techniques in deducing theories of economics brings exactness and clarity in economic analysis. There being limited scope of experimentation, the method helps in deriving economic theories. The method is simple because it is analytical. What are the demerits? Simple and precise only if valid assumptions. If assumptions are removed, then this method can be very, very complex. According to Professor Lerner, deductive method as armchair analysis and not applicable universally. In all cases, we cannot apply this method. Highly abstract and requires a great deal of care to avoid bad logic or faulty economic reasoning. The German Historical School of Economics advocated a more realistic method for economic analysis known as inductive method. So let's focus on inductive method. This method, also called empirical method or adopted by the Historical School of Economics, it involves the process of reasoning from particular facts to general principle. It means here we start our study from micro level and we find out the conclusion for macro level. It derives economic generalizations on the basis of experimentations, observations and statistical methods. Data is collected about a certain economic phenomenon, systematically arranged and general conclusions are drawn. For example, you start your study from a small section of the society, then on the basis of your study you can find out the generalizations about the whole nation, right? Or you can say a macro segment of the society. The inductive method is generally associated with the statistical form of inductions. The statistical approach has a larger field in economic investigations than the method of experimentation. The method of statistical induction is indispensable for the formulation of economic policy. So it is very, very useful for the formulation of economic policy. Whatever policy is being designed, our policy planners in India, they generally use this inductive method. Example, Malthus. I hope you know the name of Alfred Malthus. He presented his famous theory of population only after studying the facts of population in various countries. He then used statistics to support his theory. Similarly, Engel, the German statistician, employed inductive method and used statistics to formulate his law of consumption. Steps of inductive method: number one, observation, then formation of hypothesis, then generalization to test the hypothesis and find out the generalization, and after that verification of those generalizations means results, okay, whether these can be verified or not. Merits of inductive method: it is based on facts. As such, the method is realistic, it is more reliable, it is a dynamic method. The changing economic phenomena are analyzed and on the basis of collected data then conclusions and solutions are drawn. Also helps in future investigations. Demerits: if conclusions drawn from insufficient data, the generalizations obtained may be faulty. So what is the requirement for this method? You have to collect sufficient data for support. The collection of data not an easy task. It is very complicated, so sometimes the results of this method can be misleading. Time consuming and expensive. It is very time consuming because the primary survey work is not a simple thing, so it takes too much time and it requires more patience also. Conclusion: both methods are complementary, can apply one of them or both as the situation demands. Inductive and deductive methods are both needed for scientific thought, as the right and left foot are both needed for walking. This idea was given by Alfred Marshall. So, both are equally important. We cannot say whether inductive method is more important or deductive method is more important. Sometimes we use the combination of both methods. Now, scope of economics. What is the scope of economics? With the help of economics, we can take so many decisions, as we already discussed in business economics. In right in the introduction business economics. Like demand decisions, about demand we can take so many decisions: price and output decisions, cost decisions, investment decisions, decisions under different market conditions, decisions under uncertain and risky situations, decisions regarding underutilized resources or excess capacity. Excess capacity means the capacity of a manufacturing unit, or you can say a production firm, which is not being utilized. It means some resources are lying idle, means the full capacity is not being utilized. Significance: economics is as a subject of study. It is a logical basis for choice among the possible alternatives. It involves the best or optimum allocation of scarce resources and satisfaction of wants. It involves the study of the causes of various problems and suggestions for their removal. Limitations: every subject has its own limitations. Similarly, economics has its own limitations. Number one is unlimited wants. As people have unlimited wants, so to achieve all the wants is not possible, as we have limited resources. We don't have unlimited resources, so it is a limitation. Limited resources is again a limitation, right? So unlimited resources are not available. Uncertainty is market is going to be changed every second, every minute. That's why uncertainty is being arising in the market. Risk is day by day increasing. Number three, dynamism in the market, because market is changing, market is dynamic, everything is going to be changed every second, every minute. So the scope of this subject becomes limited. Ceteris paribus clause. Ceteris paribus means this is an assumption of the economy. It is the meaning of this clause is keeping other factors constant. It means a few factors we are um, assuming that these are constant. Okay. So for today, this lecture is over. We have focused on the elementary idea. You can say the introduction of economics. So for today, we stop our lecture here. Right? Okay. Thank you so much.